Listening to Darwinist talk, you would think that natural selection, acting on random mutations, is a godlike creative force that knows no bounds in its creative powers. In fact, Darwinists claim that natural selection, acting on random mutations, created all the diversity of life on Earth in all its wondrous complexity. In regards to the power of natural selection, Charles Darwin himself wrote, "It may be said that natural selection is daily and hourly scrutinizing throughout the world every variation, even the slightest, rejecting that which is bad, preserving and adding up all that is good." But the truth of the matter is that natural selection is severely limited in its capacity to scrutinize throughout the world every variation, even the slightest. These following video clips clearly illustrate the princess and the pea paradox that severely limits natural selection's ability to scrutinize.
I love your metaphor of the princess and the pea. As you try to explain for the average person like me what's going on here. Walk us through that illustration.
Okay. You know the story of the princesses and the pea.
I do.
So, of course, she proved her special, noble character because even with many mattresses, she could still feel that there was a pea under her mattress. And that proved that she was royalty, right? And so that's a cute story. In terms of genetics, what we have is a huge genome, 3 billion letters, and what we have are chance mutations in this information system, which would be like changing zeros and ones in a computer program. And so you have these mutations are overwhelmingly deleterious. You could imagine a 0 or 1 change in a computer program would make it better, but it's just phenomenally unlikely. And so the same thing is happening in the genome, and the mutation rate is extremely high. So it turns out that we have about 3 mutations every cell division in our body, which is just astounding.
Which makes you and me both mutants.
We're getting more mutant every day. So we're adding about 3 new mutations per cell per day. It's just absolutely astounding. So all these mutations are coming in, and they have tiny effects. If you change 1 letter in a genome of 3 billion, how much of the information have you lost? Very little. But you have lost some information. If you don't stop this process, you're going to destroy all the information. If you scramble the letters of the book, eventually it will have no information. And so the typical mutation has too small of an effect on our fitness or our total functionality to be measurable. Now we have some mutations where you can see an effect, like hemophilia, and you say, okay, that person has a mutation, there's a specific letter change that causes a severe disease. But the typical mutation is not detectable in any way by any medical technology. We can see that a genome has changed a letter, but we can't know how that's affected the workings of that person. And so the princess and the pea analogy is saying Mother Nature, or natural selection, is the princess, and there are these tiny changes, many levels removed.
Like Braille, you say in your book.
Right. So basically, selection happens for the whole individual.
Yeah.
So I'm 100 trillion cells, and I contain, in every cell, there's 6 billion nucleotides. And so Mother Nature is going to decide if my body is going to be selected or not, if to the extent that selection works at all. And so Mother Nature can't see a single nucleotide change. She's going to choose my whole genome. I have good genes and bad genes mixed together, and she's just going to say, at the whole organism level, there's either survival or reproduction, which is survival, or there is death or non-reproduction. And the idea that Mother Nature can sort out what's happening at just above the atomic level as these letters change within our genome is really unthinkable.
He uses this illustration of the genotype and the phenotype, like the princess, the famous story of the princess sitting on a massive layers of beds, and underneath the bed at the bottom and there's a lot of peas. Is she ever going to feel the peas? No way. Because peas are like the genotype level, and it's only when you get out of the neutral zone, you'd have to have a massive rock here for her to feel what's going on. And that never happens with favourable mutations. How many?
Thus, contrary to what Charles Darwin believed about natural selection, daily and hourly scrutinizing every variation, even the slightest, the fact of the matter is that natural selection is very limited in its power. Here are two papers in which John Sanford used numerical simulation to prove that natural selection is very limited. You can read them at your leisure. Dr. David Abel puts it like this: the genetic selection principle, sometimes called the second law of biology, states that selection must occur at the molecular genetic level, not just at the fittest phenotypic organismic level, to produce and explain life. Yet, natural selection cannot operate at the genetic level. Moreover, the fact that slightly detrimental mutations are building up in the human population is borne out empirically. I went to the Human Gene Mutation Database and I found that the mutation total as of February 27, 2016 is 179,235. In this article entitled "Critic Ignores Reality of Genetic Entropy," Dr. Sanford states, "Where are the beneficial mutations in man? It is very well documented that there are thousands of deleterious Mendelian mutations accumulating in the gene pool, even though there is strong selection pressure against such mutations. Yet such easily recognized deleterious mutations are just the tip of the iceberg. The vast majority of deleterious mutations will not display any clear phenotype at all. If there are so many beneficial mutations happening in the human population, selection should be very effectively amplify them. They should be popping up virtually everywhere. They should be much more common than genetic pathologies. Where are they?" This study found that 86% of the genetic variation or mutations that are expected to be harmful arose in European Americans in the last 5,000 years. This study found that modern-day people are 10% smaller and shorter than their hunter-gatherer ancestors, and that the decline has happened over the past 10,000 years. This study found that over the past 20,000 years, the human brain has decreased about by the size of a tennis ball. Thus, contrary to what Darwin believed about natural selection being able to scrutinize the slightest variations at the finest detail, the fact of the matter is that natural selection is virtually blind at the molecular level, at the genotype level, and this is borne out by computer simulations and from the best evidence, empirical evidence that we have from both genetics and the fossil records. So despite the grand narratives that Darwinists weave around the power of natural selection, The fact of the matter is natural selection is impotent as a creative force of any consequence. Moreover, as if the princess and the pea paradox were not devastating enough as to undermining any credibility natural selection might have had as to having the causal adequacy to explain the highly integrated levels of overlapping functional information found in life, dimensionally speaking, natural selection is now known to not even be on the right playing field in the first place. In this article we find, although living things occupy a three-dimensional space, their internal physiology and anatomy operates as if they were four-dimensional. Quarter power scaling laws are perhaps as universal and as uniquely biological as the biochemical pathways of metabolism, the structure and function of the genetic code, and the process of natural selection. They go on to state, the conclusion here is inescapable, that the driving force for these invariant scaling laws cannot have been natural selection. It's inconceivable that so many different organisms spanning different kingdoms and phyla may have blindly tried all sorts of power laws, and that only those that have by chance discovered the 1/4 power law reproduced and thrived. This article asks, a long-standing puzzle in biology is why the exponent b is usually some simple multiple of four-dimensional scaling rather than a multiple of 1/3 as would be expected from Euclidean three-dimensional scaling. Here is what a Darwinist said was a horrendously complex metabolic pathway chart which operates as if it were four-dimensional. The reason why a four-dimensional structure such as the horrendously complex metabolic pathway would be completely invisible to the three-dimensional process of natural selection is best illustrated by the following video, Dr. Quantum in Flatland.
Welcome to Flatland, a world of only two dimensions. Only forwards and backwards, left and right. In this world, there is no up and no down.
I said to Ray, where's Dottie? He said, well, she's out in line. I said,
Where's that from? What the bleep is that thing? Huh?
In this world, the two-dimensional beings that live here have no concept of three-dimensional objects. These two-dimensional flatlanders have no understanding of cubes, spheres, tetrahedrons, or yours truly. From their 2D perspective, my 3D finger looks something like this.
What the flat earth is that?
Hello, little circle. Fear of the unknown, or should I say, not yet known. It's a puzzle. If we see only what we know, how does anyone ever see anything new? The unknown, how do we ever get out of our box. Hello.
The reason why the internal physiology and anatomy and metabolic pathways of life operate as if they were four-dimensional instead of three-dimensional is because of the non-physical entity of information. It turns out that information, not matter or energy, is the primary driver of life. In the paper below, Dr. Andy McIntosh, who is professor of thermodynamics and combustion theory at the University of Leeds, holds that it is non-material information that is constraining the cell to be so far out of thermodynamic equilibrium. Moreover, Dr. McIntosh holds that regarding information as independent of matter and energy resolves the thermodynamic issues and invokes the correct paradigm for understanding the vital area of thermodynamic organizational interactions. Experiment. Through knowledge of a particle's position, the scientists were able to turn information into energy. Christopher Jarzynski states that this is a beautiful experimental demonstration that information has a thermodynamic content. In the following paper, the researchers proved that classical information is a subset of quantum information. The researchers proved that more than complete knowledge from quantum entanglement with the memory leads to deletion of the data being accompanied by removal of heat from the computer and its release as usable energy. At the 19.5-minute mark in the following video, Elizabeth Raper shows that quantum information resides along the entire length of DNA. And at the 24-minute mark, Dr. Raper remarks that practically the whole DNA molecule can be viewed as quantum information with classical information embedded within it.
Destroyed into a different state. So this is quantum information in the transversal direction. So let's make a little jump to the longitudinal direction. All these nucleic acids, they are more or less planar molecules being surrounded by electron clouds. These electron clouds, because you're dealing with aromatic rings, are highly delocalized, so that's why I draw them in such a sandwich notation. So now it happens that these electron clouds carry negative charge. And we know that adjacent negative electron clouds will repel each other. The intriguing thing is that this actually leads to correlated excitations lowering the ground state energies. So different charge clouds kick each other, and then they redistribute their charge distributions, and that can actually lower the ground state energy. Now, that effect is called van der Waals interaction or van der Waals forces. And you actually need the coherence between neighboring sites to get the attractive part of the force. But now this also has non-trivial implications. So first of all, neighboring sites are entangled due to this continuous interactions. And also, the electron cloud of one side carries information about the identity of the other side. So if I'm a thymine here, and I'm adjacent to an adenine, this adenine influences my own electronic state. If there would be a cytosine next to me, my own state would look different. And that's substantially different from classical computing. So my own identity is influenced by the neighbors I have in the DNA chain. So here was a screenshot from a computer program where you do something with DNA. You've seen it many times before. And to sum it all up, what I told you in the previous slides, everything that you can see on this picture is classical information. The black stuff and the double helix that you cannot see, that's a quantum information. So I haven't discovered any good way how to picture correlations. Probably there is no way, so that's why nobody ever draws quantum information. But the next time you see such a double helix, you know, okay, all the stuff I do not see, that's a quantum information. So basically what happens, this classical information, which is usually drawn here, is embedded, is sandwiched into quantum information. And most likely, this classical information is never accessed. You can only, because it's inside all the quantum information, you can only access the quantum information.
Moreover, quantum entanglement can be used as a quantum information channel in order to perform quantum computation. Quantum computation in DNA and in proteins will go a long way towards explaining how the DNA is able to repair itself so quickly, and it would also go a long way towards explaining how the protein is able to find its final folded form so quickly. Moreover, quantum information is conserved, which means that quantum information is permanent. It will not be destroyed. It will always continue to exist somewhere in the universe. Besides providing direct empirical falsification of neo-Darwinian claims that say information is emergent from a material basis, the implication of finding non-local beyond space and time and conserve quantum information in molecular body on such a massive scale in every DNA and protein molecule is fairly and pleasantly obvious. That pleasant implication, of course, being the fact that we now have strong physical evidence suggesting that we do indeed have an eternal soul that lives beyond the death of our material bodies.
I'm sorry for the noise in the final part of the video. I clipped it from another earlier video I had. And that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching.